I'm sure that the internet's going to go nuts on it because there were these little like visual cues. Jamie, you were saying that they worked with a magician, like a puzzle person, to drop in really expertly crafted hints at the answer.
Nothing can ruin this night.
Any one of you could be the murderer.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Phil. Chris, I understand you got this idea like a long time ago, and it was developed initially as a movie. So I want to ask you how it ended up in a TV series.
Like you said, about a little over a decade ago, I came up with this idea and wrote it as a film. And we got really busy with making other movies and TV shows. And when it came back around to finally making it, because there was something really special about the idea, I looked at the script and I realized that part of the problem was we didn't get enough time with each character's story to fit into one movie. And the idea that you could turn it into a series and have each episode really dive into each of these characters' points of view and get to know them and all the complexities of them seemed much more interesting than trying to just sort of breezily get through a bunch of different stories. So when I started, there really wasn't this sort of streaming premium television world that existed. And so this format sort of was the perfect way to tell this story, it turned out. And it really, I think, allowed it to be the version of itself that it wanted to be.
How did this all go so wrong?
Sam, it's a pleasure to see you on the Afterparty, and the series opened with the episode about your character. So tell us about Anik.
So Anik, each episode is told through a different character's perspective of what happened on that night, the night of the murder of one of the characters. And so Anik's perspective is a romantic comedy because in his story, he's like kind of going back, kind of hoping to rekindle an old possible love. So, his point of view is told through like this romantic comedy where, it's just very optimistic and very romantic and sweet. And that matches the character very much as well.
That's great. And Ben, in your episode is kind of musical, and we saw you before singing before, maybe for cartoons and animation shows, but I think this is the first time that we can see you singing and dancing with all these choreography. So how was the challenge for you?
It was so fun. It was terrifying and it was so fun. And also I learned that singing and dancing at the same time is impossible. It's so hard. I was like gasping for air. I don't understand how any singer or pop star who does those big songs do any of it. But it was a blast. I got to like live a dream with professional dancers behind me, with professional choreographers. And so it was heaven. I can't wait for people to see that episode.
At life, love, something else. I would just love it if you could just skip to the part where the murder happened.
I'm telling you a story here. I'm building character arcs, dynamics.
How did you arrive to the idea to do each character as a different genre? I mean, when it's comedy, there's a musical, there's an maybe. How did you end up doing it this way?
Well, once we figured out that it would make a great series, it opened up the possibilities, and Chris quickly figured out, we could do each one as its own genre, and that would help you get to know each character even better. So it's not just about, chasing our filmmaking dreams of getting to do all these different things. It's really about how can I tell a more interesting story where
the audience gets to know each character so well that it leaves you guessing about who did it.
Any one of you could be the murderer. And I want to hear your story. The same thing could happen, but you see it in a different way. I want to hear your mind moving.
I want to ask you, how did you end up in the after party, and what was like working with all those geniuses around?
How did I end up in the after party? I to this day, I sort of don't know. I still feel very lucky. I guess I auditioned, and I think that Chris Miller had seen the show that I write in the UK. And yeah, it still does feel quite surreal. I heard about the show and thought to myself, in my wildest dreams, I would love to like play a rock in one episode in the corner of a room somewhere. And so the idea of getting to play a recurring character was just a dream come true, especially when, it was like the fact that it was a Lord & Miller project alone was enough to make me, I could have run across the sea to get there. And then you add all the cast to it and it's like, oh my God, dream job.
Ilana, speaking of gender, the show is obviously a comedy, but the murder mystery element is like new territory as well for your work. So how was this experience for you?
It was such a blast. Like, not only, my character's genre of psychological thriller was such a departure for me from comedy. But to dabble in all these different genres was such a fun, it was kind of like a carnival, and we're just like going on different rides every day to, just go down this ride of a rom-com ride or a teen comedy ride, like that. But it was, it was just so much fun. And I think like with this cast, it became, it was kind of like camp or something. Like, it didn't feel like work at all. It was totally playful and just expansive.
Did you see her hair? It looks like she made out with a tornado. It's just Jewish hair.
So much volume.
Chris, how difficult was to be in the writer's room, developing all the story, and at the same time be aware that you need to put or that you need to get enough clues in order to the viewers may be able to solve the mystery?
Oh yeah, that's what's so fun about the mystery genre. That's why I've loved it since I was a kid, is that the best mysteries are ones where you have all the information if you know where to look and if you were paying attention. And when you see it, you're surprised. You find out who did it, you're surprised, but you ultimately are satisfied because you feel like, of course, it was right there. Why didn't I remember that? And hopefully, I think this does that. And what was fun about just the concept was that each story would give you one piece of the clues as to who did it and how. And only from watching all the episodes and putting those things together can you really solve the whodunit. It was a very complicated puzzle, and I gotta tell you, there were many times when the whole writing staff would just be like, and you want to change one little thing in one episode, and it had a ripple effect on all the other episodes. So it was a really challenging thing to do, but that's the thing that Phil and I always love, which is to do things that seem impossible, that are really ambitious, that you've never seen before. And that's like doing a thing where every episode is shot in a different style, with different lighting, different music, and different costumes and everything. It's not very easy for production, but it is really exciting because you're doing something new.
Any one of us could snap.
What? Who?
Whoa!
Sam, we've been talking about how each character's account of the night is told through a different gender. So reflecting about all these different personalities and views of themselves, was there anything that you found surprising and challenging about that?
Well, I found it very. It was challenging, but in a very fun and like educational, like sort of exercise way, where you're performing it slightly different based on whatever genre it is, and also from whatever that character thinks of the character, because that then informs how the person behaves and like even little quirks or like how, you know, how they interact with the world is all through the lens of somebody else. So playing that kind of like and making those like little micro adjustments for whatever scene was like a really cool experiment with it, which you know, maybe someone who maybe brilliant, like you know, Ian
McKellen?
Ian McKellen, yeah, exactly. Where maybe that's how he approaches every scene, but for me, I was like, oh, what a great way to like sort of approach the work is like this directly from somebody else's perspective, because like we always think about ourselves when we're doing a scene because we are the lens which we see everything through, but like what makes a good director and like all that sort of thing is like seeing it from all the perspectives, and you're kind of forced to do that through the device of this show.
Everyone seems to think you did it.
Everyone. It's all anyone's talking about. Sorry, you're you. That's not fun.
Finally, I think internet will be crazy and full of theories after each episode. So I want to ask you if you think there are enough clues in order that the viewers might be able to solve the mystery ourselves.
Well, great question. I think if you follow along and you really are watching, I think there's a good chance that you could start figuring it out. There's also some like very intense specific clues that Chris has left throughout the whole thing that tells you who maybe it could be, who it's definitely not. And if you watch closely enough, you can. But when I was reading it and trying to figure out who was the killer, I don't know if I would have been able, or at that time, I think I was like, maybe it's one of these people. So they do it so if you watch, you're gonna be rewarded. Everything will make sense. It's not an out of nowhere thing. It's not, as Sam said, the mop from episode 2.
Yeah, exactly.
It's if you watch it, you're rewarded with, oh, it's this human being and it's this human being because look at all these things he did. And so that to me is like, oh, so it does reward you. It's not out of nowhere. If you're paying attention, you could figure it out before the reveal, which is like every person's dream, for me at least, when I'm watching one of these.
I wonder how many, I'm sure that the internet's going to go nuts on it because there were these little like visual cues. Jamie, you were saying that they worked with a magician, like a puzzle person to drop in really expertly crafted hints at the answer. And Chris would say, look at that wall. What do you see? And I was like, I don't know. I really could not see what he was saying. But there's hints beyond what I could even capture. I could even grasp being on set, pointing at the answer. So I think that people will have plenty to search for.
That's great. Well, a pleasure to talk with you. Congratulations and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice one.
Bam.
Everybody seems to be hiding something.